And we have actually invited a 5 seasoned professional from private sector and international organizations for today's talk show on good practices in youth in evaluation. And before we actually dive into the actual show, let me quickly introduce the panel member. First, we do have with here Faith. Morning, Faith. Afternoon. Faith is actually a young evaluator currently working as evaluation analyst at the UNFPA Independent Evaluation Office. And in her role, he serves as co-convener on the UNEG working group on years, which is actually a platform established to promote the meaningful inclusion and development of young evaluator. Thanks so much, Faith, for making the time to join us today. Um, Next, we have Cecilia. Cecilia is the male advisor and co-chair at Encompass LLC. With over 50 years of experience, Cecilia actually brings extensive M&E expertise and is particularly passionate about promoting voice of youth and marginalized population around the world. Morning, Cecilia. And David has also joined us. David, please, you may turn on your camera. David worked as a M&E manager. Hi, David. David worked as a M&E manager global at Right to Play International, and he has actually gained over a decade of experience working in diverse settings such as health, education, youth empowerment, child protection, wars, etc. And he is known actually for his ability to creatively incorporating youth perspective into evaluations. Us today, Ubal. Ubal is the co-founder at Advising Group, overseas Advising Group business. He's the business development manager um, for Africa, Latin America, and Caribbean. So for the past decades, Ubal worked at OAG, and his work has actually been to concentrate on research, evaluation, on projects and program. And he brings to this talk show his insight from public sector. And last but not least, we also have Uyen, who is joining as well. Uyen joined UNICEF actually in 2018 and actually leads the innovation, learning, and Opti unit. So, as an academic, she has extensive experience in evaluating the progress and impact of a humanitarian project in low-income countries. So, her academic backgrounds and also research centered on refugee health, etc., will be very critical and beneficial to today's talk. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are um, our panelists for today's talk show. And as we give the floor to each of our panelists, we kindly ask them to open the camera so that we could spotlight as well them on the screen. So with no transition, my first question actually goes to Faith. So Faith, building your experience so far, how does UNFPA actually ensure that young people's voices are heard and voices?
Okay, thank you so much, ar-mel, for this opportunity to be here. And I think I've already been introduced, so I'll get straight into the conversation. So it's important for you to note that indeed UNFPA has been walking the talk in ensuring that the voices of young people, youth, are heard and valued deeply in evaluation processes and practice. So UNFPA has adopted what is called a systemic approach, and this systemic approach comprises 4 elements, and it is implemented at the global, regional, and country levels to ensure that the voices of young people are heard and incorporated at the different organizational levels. So I'll just go straight into the components of this systemic approach, like I've mentioned earlier. The first one is around building an enabling environment for youth voices to be heard and valued in evaluation processes. Marco already alluded to the fact that UNFPA has supported the Eval for Action campaign. We have adopted the standards for meaningfully engaging youth in evaluation. We've signed the manifesto. UNFPA has also been a key supporter of the Eval Youth Global Network. And like we've seen this last 4 days, or what we are engaging in, this cross-sectoral engagement called the Youth in Evaluation Week, UNFPA has also been a key supporter of this initiative. Then the second part of this systemic approach is around strengthening the institutional capacities to facilitate the participation of youth in evaluation. This is both within UNFPA and beyond. And as a result of this, we help facilitate the growth of a demand in terms of youth in evaluation. I'll give an example of what we've done recently. In the month of May, we released what is the new UNFPA evaluation handbook. And in that handbook, I'm very proud of being part of the development of this handbook. In that handbook, we even have a section specifically dedicated to the recruitment of young and emerging evaluators. It provides the tools as well as the templates to facilitate that process. Another example in this same pillar, under the same second pillar of the systemic approach, we have also published what is called the Practical Guide for Meaningfully Engaging Youth in Evaluation, which provides a step-by-step way and method or what you can use as a guide in order for you to meaningfully engage youth in evaluation. It's not only for UNFPA's use, but other agencies and organizations can also adopt and use it. The third example, I have so many examples of what UNFPA is doing. The third example that I will share is the fact that we last year had what is called the formative evaluation of UNFPA support towards adolescents and youth. And in that evaluation, indeed, it was co-driven, co-facilitated by young people. And I encourage you all to check out this evaluation. I'll post the link in the chat where you see how that youth voices were incorporated both as decision makers, key informants, and participants in the evaluation process. In the interest of time, I have a bag of so many examples, but in the interest of time, I'll go to the third pillar of this systemic approach, which is around strengthening the professional evaluation competences of youth in evaluation, resulting into building a supply of young evaluators across the globe. So here, a few weeks ago, within the month of May again, we had what is called the Cross-Regional Evaluation Capacity Development Workshop. Ideally, this workshop is centered around building the capacity of country office staff, but we thought that it was wise to invite young and emerging evaluators in the area in which we were having the workshop, and specifically we're having it in Kenya. So we sent out a call to help also build the capacity of young and emerging evaluators in Kenya, where we selected 5 YEEs to participate. And they came to the 5-day workshop and they got to learn about how to implement and manage country program evaluations. And they also had a time in which they could share their expertise and how they would easily blend into the process of managing a country program evaluation, thereby also contributing to the building of the capacity in terms of national evaluation competences. Another example of strengthening professional capacity is what UNFPA in the region, the Latin American and Caribbean region, they hosted what is called a boot camp to help build the capacities of young and emerging evaluators. So like I said, I have a bag full of examples, but I'll straight away go to the fourth pillar of the systemic approach, which is around establishing innovative platforms in order to facilitate the participation of youth in evaluation. So UNFPA really encourages that young people are engaged in 4 ways. That is, as decision makers, you could establish a steering committee as part of the evaluation process, as key informants, where young people could be key stakeholders feeding into the data that is being collected in terms of in regards to the evaluation process. They could also be engaged as young evaluators themselves as part of the core team that is conducting the evaluation. And lastly, they could be considered as active contributors for being included in things like the reference group, where we need a representative from the young groups or the youth groups in a particular area, region, or under a particular theme as part of the reference group for an evaluation. So ar-mel, I'll go on and on all day explaining the various ways in which UNFPA is supporting young people. But like I mentioned earlier, indeed, UNFPA is walking the talk as regards the engagement of young people, or ensuring that the voices of young people are heard and valued in evaluation processes. Thank you.
Yeah, Faith, you shared very interesting insights, and we shall definitely come back again to follow up with some follow-up questions. But
Absolutely.
Cecilia, to add on what Faith has just shared, so your organization is also has a long tradition working with youth. So could you share any example of projects, initiatives where you've played a critical role in the evaluation process from Encompass perspective? Cecilia?
Thank you so much, ar-mel. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we
Great.
do. I can hear you.
So I am here representing Encompass LLC. We are a monitoring, evaluation, and a learning consulting firm based in the Washington, D.C. area. So for us, in our context as the private sector, when we talk about youth, we're talking about young and emerging evaluators. And at Encompass, we work with young and emerging evaluators, both in our home office in the Washington, D.C. area, as well as globally. We have 8 different monitoring and evaluation platforms, our country offices around the world, largely for USAID as well as other implementing organizations. We at Encompass engage younger staff at early points in their career in stretch assignments, and we give them opportunities to contribute and grow throughout all phases of the evaluation process, from design all the way to report writing. And for the evaluations that Encompass carries out, young and emerging evaluators are equally engaged in those strategic discussions about the evaluation. They're full participants in data analysis, report writing, which it's beneficial to everyone, because not only is it giving them that experience as evaluators, but it also brings very unique and important perspectives that are frequently lost when you don't engage those young and emerging evaluators, different insights to the analysis, to the report writing, to the design. So it's really, I think private sector organizations are missing out if they fail to consider how to really intentionally engage young and emerging evaluators. In addition, at Encompass, we have an institutional review board, which I have the honor of being the co-chair, and we intentionally ensure that young and emerging evaluators on our staff are part of our IRB roster, and they serve as reviewers to ensure that the voices of youth are being considered as part of the evaluation design. So as I mentioned, we have 8 monitoring and evaluation contracts globally, and we're engaging youth in exciting and very creative ways. For example, building on lessons learned from our offices in Senegal, Lebanon, and Bangladesh, who all have dedicated internship programs to offer internships to youth and young and emerging evaluators. Our newest monitoring and evaluation office, which is currently opening up in Zambia, is going to ramp up with a similar program. As we heard previously, oftentimes there isn't that space, there aren't the opportunities for young and emerging evaluators. So these internship programs intentionally work with local youth networks, with local universities to engage youth from an early point in their careers to give them that experience working on evaluations. Our Senegal team also recently presented a session at the African Evaluation Association, AFREA conference on youth-led evaluations in collaboration with the Senegalese Evaluation Association, sharing lessons learned and best practices when it comes to engaging youth in evaluation. And across our country offices, Encompass and our subcontractors, we've carried out various evaluations centered on youth, such as youth in agriculture in Senegal, non-formal education, and assessment of LGBTQI youth and youth perceptions of democracy in Peru, and an evaluation of a youth violence prevention project in Bangladesh. So throughout these youth-centered and other evaluations, Encompass really strives to engage young and emerging evaluators as part of the evaluation process, as evaluation participants through the design, coordinating logistics, analysis, report writing, you name it.
So thanks so much, Cecilia, for sharing this very interesting insight. And like we just mentioned, there are very interesting things that you are sharing, and we wish we have much more time to discuss all on this. But we shall definitely come back again with few questions to probe more on this. But we also have here online David. David is from Right to Play International, and he also has some interesting insights to share with us. And David, we are actually very curious to hear some of the good practices that you have actually seen from integrating youth into evaluation processes at Right to Play International. And in addition, if you could also very quickly highlight any particular projects where youth involvement in youth in evaluation at Right to Play has actually significantly led to changes in findings, etc. So, David, you have the floor. Yeah, David, we can't hear you.
When integrating
Okay.
youth into evaluation at Right to Play include making sure that we're engaging youth from the design stage. So as early in the evaluation process as we can, and we already heard earlier about even joining steering committees. It's really important but also at the design stage. One thing we've learned as well is that it's important to train and empower youth, provide the capacity building that's required, and equip them for this kind of work, both in an individual project and also for their future and their careers. It's really important working with youth, of course, to are in place and respected. So this needs to be accounted for as well in training and in respecting the safeguarding policies of organizations that you're working with. We've also learned that employing youth-friendly and participatory methodologies is really important as well, and works really well when you're integrating youth in evaluation processes, and they can be really strong drivers of these methodologies. When integrating youth into evaluations, it's important also to think about integrating diverse youth, right? From diverse backgrounds, socioeconomic positions, and that will also bring additional richness and depth of perspective to the evaluation process. Youth are not just one category, but there's plenty of diverse youth that will bring different perspectives to an evaluation project as well. So that's another consideration that we found is important to consider. Finally, I'd like to highlight listening to the youth as well, and really having conversations and dialogue with the youth that are integrated in your evaluation project to listen how they would approach certain challenges, opportunities, what are their ideas, and making that a core part of your evaluation project so that you're listening to their perspectives and benefiting from the richness of their suggestions as well. In terms of a specific project that you asked about, ar-mel, I'd like to highlight a research project that Right to Play recently implemented. It was funded by the Global Women Initiative at George Washington University and implemented in partnership with the University of Fraser Valley in Canada and Makerere University. And this was a project that worked with young people to develop participatory and play-based tools and approaches for collecting evidence, specifically on gender-based violence among adolescents in humanitarian settings. Based tools for collecting and understanding the evidence related to social norm change and, and related to gender-based violence amongst adolescents in the refugee settings. And so youth were highly involved in this and participatory tools were developed and piloted that included methodologies like journaling, diary writing with some prompts. It was drawing and mapping of spaces in communities, drawing gender roles at the household level. And there was also the use of vignettes, which was followed by dramas and discussion. Process in the pilot was then followed by a youth-led data analysis workshop. And this led to some really interesting findings. In fact, the tools that were developed and the learning from this research project has led to an organizational manual and guidance document on participatory methodologies that's really benefiting the organization in future evaluation projects that we participate in. Data was collected by junior leaders as well involved in the Right to Play programs. And we learned that they're really comfortable using some of the methodologies like the drawing, the mapping, and the role play, but a little bit less comfortable with vignettes. And so this was a really important learning for us. And we also found that the participants and the integration of the junior leaders and youth in the data collection process really enabled an animated and open discussion on these sensitive topics like gender norms, roles, things like child marriage and experience of violence. And we found that adolescents were even wanting to provide suggested actions to curb GBV in the communities. So it's a really important learning for us through that project that developed these tools, but also we learned that young people are really able to build strong rapport with youth and children during data collection exercises, and that this engagement and participation of youth in the data collection using specifically participatory and play-based tools really creates an open, safe environment for discussion on sensitive topics like this. However, we also learned that it's important to provide adequate training and support. So that's really important as well to keep in mind for future projects. Back to you, ar-mel.
Yeah, David, thanks so much for sharing this experience that you have had at Right to Play and with that particular project. And we hope we have also the access link to all of these materials as well to share with our participants. So we have among the panelists also one colleague coming from a private sector, and his name is Ubal. And let's invite actually Uba to also to share some of his experience. And actually, the overseas advising group teams include talents, young talent from diverse academic and cultural backgrounds. And Ubal, we do have two questions for you. So, what are some of the innovative practices OAG actually uses to involve young people in evaluation process, in all the countries where we are working with? And also, how do you think young evaluator that you involve in your evaluation work actually do have the chance to add value to the evaluation process at OAG. So Ubal, you may open your camera. And you have the floor, Ubal.
You very much, Ahmed. I don't know if you hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you, but we can't see your face. But please go ahead. Ibal? So while we try maybe to solve the technical issue with Ubal, may I quickly maybe come back to one follow-up question that we have for Cecilia. So we have had great insight about good practices and lessons that you have shared. But from your point of view, what are some of the challenges specific to a private organization like yours in promoting youth involvement in evaluation? And how do you actually overcome these issues?
Thanks so much. I love this question. I think, in our day to day as a consulting firm, things can kind of be fast and furious. And I think one of the challenges is taking the time to kind of pause and really create that space for exchange with youth and young and emerging evaluators. Some of the ways that we've addressed this is, you may be familiar, Encompass has an Encompass Learning Center where we offer various courses for professional development, internally, externally, on different evaluation methodologies. We have individuals from around the world who give courses on this Encompass Learning platform. And one of the things that we do is that we offer free spots for eval youth selected members to promote accessibility. So young and emerging evaluators can take opportunity or take advantage of that space for exchange. We also at Encompass make ourselves available to be interviewed by evaluation students working on PhD and master's theses. We host at the home office JEDI interns from the American Evaluation Association who are young and emerging evaluators. We participate in evaluation courses and speakers, like just as we are doing here, to make sure that we're really creating that space for exchange. I think another thing is making sure, related to the first point, but setting young evaluators up for success. So when young and emerging evaluators work at Encompass, it's really important to us that they are afforded the opportunities, but also the mentorship to really be set up for success. So we have a very intentional and well-defined orientation process that is precisely to support welcoming the inclusion of young and emerging evaluators and other professionals. And mentorship is something that is very important at Encompass. So dedicated time, weekly time with supervisors who are paired with young and emerging evaluators who have specific interests to check in on their professional development. Our professional development funds at Encompass are the same amount no matter what level you are. So young and emerging evaluators can take advantage of that as well. I think one of the largest challenges for private sector organizations such as Encompass is because we're private sector, our funding comes from clients, obviously. And oftentimes clients have very specific requirements when it comes to years of experience for key personnel they want to see on evaluations. And so that can sometimes be a limiting factor when it comes to, for example, having young and emerging evaluators playing a team lead role because we are still bound to client requirements. So one of the ways that we have addressed that is, for example, utilization of these internship programs that I mentioned previously, because that helps young and emerging evaluators kind of get a jump start on those years of experience. While we may not be able to always name a young and emerging evaluator as, for example, a team lead, that doesn't mean that we're not including them in our evaluations. And we're actually very intentionally including young and emerging evaluators as part of the team, perhaps not always key personnel. But it is really an important thing to do. To work with our country offices and to work with our clients to really advocate for reduced years of experience, because we also know that youth bring unique perspectives. And so that's something that we're working on that is always a struggle, and I think is something that we continue to work on. Back to you.
Yeah, Cecilia. Yeah, we have taken note of the approaches that you have taken to overcome these specific challenges that you have highlighted, and we're pretty sure that Yuval will also have some insight from that angle. And let us hear from Yuval. Yuval, I hope you are here with us. So if the technical issue is solved with Yuval. So Yuval, we were actually asking you like one or two questions. So, what are some of the innovative practices OAG actually uses to involve young people in the evaluation process? And how do young evaluators actually add value to the evaluation work at OAG?
Yes, ar-mel. Thank you very much for this two interesting question. I don't know if you hear me now, ar-mel.
We can hear you, but we can't see your face. That's the issue. But please proceed.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Your two questions very interesting. So I will start with the first one, as highlight some innovative practice our organization used to involve young people in evaluation process. All young people aspiring to be a project and program evaluator are welcome to OAG. So, but since the number of places are limited, each year we launch a call for application to select intern from a period of 3 to 6 months. So during this period, they follow on a capacity building program in place at OAG. This includes the basic concept of the monitoring and evaluation, reading and understanding the TOR for a request for proposal, and developing technical proposal and budget for a particular request for proposal. So we put this in place because we know our young and aspiring evaluator come from many horizons and have different backgrounds. So we want to make sure they have the basic concept for the job, for the monitoring and evaluation. So at the end of this process, we select 3 candidates who can be involved in the evaluation process for a particular project. So for the last cohort of the 6th intern, OAG has selected 3 of them who are now involving in our evaluation work. 2 of them will be traveling in Chad in the next in a few weeks for an evaluation program with one of our major clients. And another one is involving now in the Far West Cameroon for third-party monitoring project. Finally, it will be noted that all our staff are recruited via the same process, internship process, and actually the age of our staff is between 23 and 35-year-olds. So this is what I can highlight at the approach we use at OAG Overseas Advising Group to involve young people in the evaluation process.
Well, merci,
Regarding
Yuval.
your,
Please go ahead.
regarding
Yeah.
your second question, sorry.
Yes, please go ahead for the second question. Yeah.
Okay, great. Regarding your second question, if I am not mistaken, you want to know how value did the young evaluator act in the evaluation process at Overseas Advising Group?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes, at OAG, our young people are selected via a strict process. So they are very enthusiastic, they are dynamic, they are smart, and full of energy. When involving in evaluation, and since they are very well in the ICT and social network, their work usually consists of using innovative approach such WhatsApp, voicemail, photo voice, storytelling, interview to collect data. The outcome of this process is generally a quality of transcript. Of course, this helps OEG to deliver high quality report, and after analyzing and triangulating the data. What I will also share is that our young evaluators are also involved in the process of reporting, particularly at the level of editing evaluation report using the client template, if available, of course, sometimes, and using OEG standard, and also perform the first step of the quality assurance process in place at OEG. This really helped us to save a lot of time in finalizing the draft of report and share with our valuable client. This is what I can say regarding your second question, Ahmed. Thank
Thanks so
you.
much, Ubal, for highlighting for us all these strategies that OAG is actually using to ensuring that your voice are actually heard and included into your evaluation processes. And before we kind of run up this talk show, we like to give like 1 more minute to Faith. Faith, if you could jump in again and then share a final thought on how could different sectors we have heard from international organizations, we have heard perspective from private sectors, but from your perspective, how could different sectors, public, private, international, actually collaborate to enhance youth participation in evaluation?
Okay, thank you so much, Armel. And I'm really enjoying the conversation. Unfortunately, time is indeed not on our side. So I just want to highlight that as the UNEG Working Group on Young and Emerging Evaluators, we launched what is called the mapping exercise to just get a sense of the engagement of YEEs, by YEEs, Young and Emerging Evaluators, in the UN system. And with that, we found a few key highlights from the report, and we'll be launching the report in the next few weeks or maximum in a month's time. So please be on the lookout for this report. And from that, there are some senses that we were getting. That is that young people may represent less than 20% of evaluation employees in most UNEG agencies, but even as there are a few, there's a lot of significance that they are bringing in, that they bring fresh perspectives, innovative ideas, and diverse viewpoints to evaluations. We also found out that from this report, young people face a lot of barriers, especially in entering into these organizations, in that there are a few entry-level opportunities or entry-level job opportunities. And as Cecilia mentioned already about these challenges. So with that understanding and the conclusions from this mapping exercise, which can be applied both at international organizations, private sector organizations, and in the public, with that understanding, I'll provide just 3 top-level things that different organizations can do. So the first suggestion would be that they should consider working together in seeking ways to understand the current status of youth engagement in evaluation. They can leverage this mapping exercise that I've already talked about, which will be available in a month's time. And they could also work together in conducting other mapping exercises to just find out and get a sense of some of the challenges and the gaps that exist in the engagement of youth in evaluation. The second thing that I would recommend, based on the findings of this mapping exercise, is that international organizations, the public and the private, should work together in ways to empower and support youth engagement in evaluation. This can be either through coming up with joint mentorship programs, digital learning platforms, employment opportunities. And with this, an example that I would give from the UNEG Working Group on Young and Emerging Evaluators is what this program called the UNEG Young Evaluators Program, where we are trying to see to it that young people are employed as YEEs, both at national and international levels. So international organizations, public sectors, and private organizations could leverage such type of initiatives in order to ensure that more young people are brought into the evaluation space. And lastly, another point that I would really bring to the table is that of advocating. This is around advocating for greater institutional commitment, and also advocating and shining a light on what has already been done, like, for example, the event today and other events that are being undertaken during this Youth in Evaluation Week. It's important that international organizations, private sector, and the public come together, share ideas like we've done today, in order for more people to be aware of what's going on, and for more people to be aware of some of the recommendations that will be coming out both from the national, regional, and global landscape. So those are my small ideas. I would have shared more, but in the interest of time, I think these suffice what I wanted to talk about. Thank you, ar-mel. Over to you.